Welcome back to another episode of Retail War Games. Our guest today is Jessica Klodnicki, CEO of KT Tape. Enjoy.
So you grew up in a lot of countries, or a few countries and many states.
Yes. Is that right? Military brat, Navy brat.
Okay.
When I was 2 weeks old, shuffled me to Southern California, and then we bounced around to California, DC, Guam, Spain, Florida. And that was before I was 18 years old.
All the best places, at least. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
A lot of coastal.
That's what I was going to say. You're all coastal, so
Yes.
you're probably San Diego.
I don't know how I ended up in Utah. It's the mountain biking.
I know. That's true. That's really.
Isn't it amazing?
So Guam, my wife used to live in Guam.
Oh, no way.
Isn't that crazy? It's
I
only
never meet anybody from Guam.
Isn't it only like 8 miles long or something crazy?
It's very small.
It's very small. That's great. What years were you
like
there?
Like a baby Hawaii.
Were you young or?
I was young. I was, it had to be like 87 or so.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a mini Hawaii. I just ran around barefoot for a couple of years.
She lived there from 84 to 87.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
We might have crossed over.
You literally would have been in Guam together.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Probably saw each other too.
She always talks about having her boonies in her backyard.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I know how to crack open a coconut with my bare hands from living there. So
there you go.
Life skills.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then as an adult, I kept going. So Atlanta for a number of years, which I've got a lot of Olympic connections to talk about.
Yes.
And then went to Paris for a couple years, and then back to Atlanta, which is kind of sad after Paris.
Yeah.
And then Santa Cruz, California, Sonoma, California, and now Utah. So it's been a good run.
Wow, what were you doing in Paris?
I try to live in cool places.
Yeah, you do.
I worked for Newell Brands, big consumer product company.
Oh, yeah.
And worked on 3 different business segments. And European office was based in Paris, and there was one business segment that was based there. And I drew the good straw, I guess, and they shipped me off to Paris.
Goodness. How lucky
we
is
lived
that?
right in the middle of the city, and
Wow.
had a
What
really
a life.
great immersion there.
Yeah.
I'm always like amazed at those people that decide to live in good places, because there's a lot of people that just, I'll just live wherever I'm at, kind of a thing.
Or they
like,
stay in the same spot forever.
Forever, yeah.
Well, the Navy brat in me, we moved every 3 years. And unfortunately now, as an adult, I kind of still want to do that. I mean,
I know.
So,
do you know what's fascinating? My wife does the same thing. Every 3 years, she wants to kind of move.
Yeah.
Because she's done Guam, Philippines,
Oh, no
Germany. Yeah.
Was she a military
Africa.
brat too?
No, her dad worked for the LDS Church, but she moved every 3 years.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And so it's kind of fascinating.
Kind of
It's
like
kinda
the military.
That's
cool.
what she is. So she's always like, we finally built our dream home.
Oh, there you go.
We've been there for 3 years, and now she wants to move.
Now she wants to move. Oh no.
I'm like, oh my
Jen,
goodness.
don't do it.
She doesn't even care where. She's throwing out Australia. She's throwing out Tennessee. She's throwing out. I mean, it's all over the place.
Mine would be Italy.
Puerto Rico, Italy.
Oh, Italy would be amazing.
Yeah.
So you came to Utah, and now you're mountain biking. Where's your favorite trails to go to?
Yeah, I mean, Park City. I live in Park City.
You live in Park City.
Park City is amazing.
Of
So
course.
I learned to mountain bike in Santa Cruz, which is kind of mountain bike capital of the world, but it's almost all illegal riding.
Oh.
Now it is,
and
or it
these
was?
crazy secret
way.
trails. Yeah, amazing riding. And then we move here, and it's 500 miles of well-marked, legal, gorgeous trails. And so
Perfect.
we just ride all over Park City, and then we always do a mud season migration down to Moab and southern Utah.
Love
You
it.
have 7 bikes.
I do have 7 bikes.
That is incredible.
I can't help myself.
That is amazing.
One
Some
for
people
each
collect
day of the
shoes.
You
week.
have
you
to have
collect
one for
bikes.
every discipline. So I have long travel mountain bike, short travel mountain bike, fat bike for winter,
Oh, yeah.
e-mountain bike, giving it a chance, a gravel
yeah.
bike, a road bike, a cargo bike that I used to use for wine tasting, and then a folding e-bike.
There you go.
That is incredible.
Totally random.
There you go. That's awesome.
Favorite brand, favorite bike?
Ibis. So I'm an Ibis super fan. We lived in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And in this I shouldn't say tiny town. Santa Cruz, I think 65,000 people, but in that town, it was Ibis mountain bikes, Santa Cruz mountain bikes, Fox shocks. I was there working for Bell helmets. Across the hill was Specialized. And so you had this crazy little microcosm of mountain
Like
biking.
a
Oh,
bike
yeah,
town.
you do. Holy
Wow.
cow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it was amazing.
Unreal.
Interesting place to learn. Like a lot of really strong riders, great riding. But Ibis, so Ibis is one of the local brands, and got to befriend those guys when I was there, and actually accidentally started a women's mountain bike group with the wife of the guy that runs IBIS, and it's still there. It's an official nonprofit.
Oh.
Just turned 10 years old with it's a mission to get more women out mountain biking
Oh, that's
in a
rad.
safe and fun and social
It is.
environment.
That's cool.
What I've really liked about the e-bike thing is it gets the people that are a little bit intimidated
Yeah.
to jump right back into biking. It kind of is like a little bit of a segue to like, okay, I feel comfortable with this. I can start using my body a
It
little
took
bit
me a
more.
while to get there. I was kind of a hater. I was
Yeah.
not kind of a hater. I
It's
was
kind of
very much
cheating.
a hater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cheating.
If I had anybody pass me on the trail on an e-bike, I was like
Furious.
immediately
You're
I
like,
think it
that
was
is not
more-
right.
more jealousy than anger. And then we went on this awful mountain bike ride in Ketchum, Idaho, that was like insane elevation. And I had this epiphany of like, oh,
That's
I
what
see.
This is why you get it.
And now you see like
They're
it's getting more
everywhere.
people out on the trail. It allows people that are
Right.
different levels to ride together.
It
And I
does.
think as long as people are worried about what they're going to do to the trails, they're not going to hurt the trails. If you've ever pedaled a Class 1 e-mountain bike, you know that it still work.
It's a bike. Yeah.
And then it comes down to etiquette and just being like, you can be a jerk on an analog bike too.
Yeah. Do you know Chris Washburn? Vizari RE Bikes?
I have not met him yet.
Okay.
But I would like to meet him.
I'd like to introduce you.
Yes.
He was
Great
on
introduction.
here. Unbelievable.
Cool.
Their corporate office is like, it'd be like Christmas for you.
Oh,
But
yeah.
It is beautiful.
they're just
It's
down the road. Yeah, they're
Oh
really
yeah.
close. Yeah.
I know. I can't believe I haven't crossed paths with those guys because
Yeah,
I've been playing
he's
around in the
rad.
bike industry for a long time now. I was recently on the board of the Pros Closet, which is a cycling re-commerce retailer with a.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Pros Closet?
No.
Super interesting story. So ex-pro cyclist, unless you're top tier, you don't make a ton of money. And so at the end of every season, he was selling off his bikes and his gear on eBay. His friends, his buddy cyclists, asked him to do the same, and so he turned it into a proper business, and then eventually built it up to a full website where you can buy or sell used bicycles, high-end bicycles. You ship them to Pros Closet. They do a 127-point inspection, I think, and then refurbish it and resell it. And so it's a really interesting business model. And if you've ever tried to buy a used bike on
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace or Pink Bike, you just don't know what you're getting. So really, really neat business model. So I had my toe in there and ran Bell bike helmets and a couple other cycling accessories brands, Camelback for years, and then served a bunch in the nonprofit space. Was on the board of the International Mountain Bicycling
I
Association.
noticed your resume is ridiculous.
It's
I know. I
awesome.
don't have
did,
kids.
So you did CMO for Skull Candy.
I don't have kids. I drink a lot of coffee, and I just
Like what other cool brand?
I
got
got
to
to fill my time. So I have
Vista. So Vista. So what brands does Vista have now?
So the history, if you don't know the history of Vista spun off from a defense contracting company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which was insane. Spun off the consumer side, which was some gun and ammunition brands and like hunting accessories, duck calls, and
It was more
scopes
hook and bullet outdoor, and
was
now
all
it's kind
bullet.
of all bullet.
spun
outdoor.
off, became a public company in 2015, based in Farmington originally, and then wanted to diversify the categories that they were in. So they were going on an acquisition spree, basically. And one of the first brands they bought was a stand-up paddleboard brand called Jimmy Sticks, which is, I think, defunct now. Camelback.
Camelback for sure.
And then I was working for Bell and Giro, and we had a portfolio of cycling accessory brands. We sold to Vista. And then after about 6 months of integration, they shipped me over to Camelback to run Camelback.
Wow.
But since then, they've bought Sims Fishing,
Oh, yeah.
Fox, not the shocks, but Fox Head, Fox Helmets.
Okay.
Quiet Cat, which is an
Another
e-bike brand that's
we run the sales for them.
kind of hunting focused.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
God, the list goes on. And now, again, they're splitting again. I don't know if you heard the news, but they've announced a split where the outdoor business is splitting off, and it'll be called Revelist. And then the ammunition side is splitting off, and I can't remember the name.
Oh,
But they've already got, go read the news because there's some interesting stuff happening.
Oh, very
happening
interesting.
with that one. Yeah.
I was just talking to the Sims people just recently, and I think they're getting a new CEO. I think. I don't know if you know this or
Yeah,
not.
well,
but-
so they're folded into this Revelist, and they did just get a
Yeah.
fairly new CEO over that Revelist
and
group.
I know they're pretty excited because he's a big fly fisherman.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So that's
I love, Jessica, that you've purposely made sure that all these companies you've been talking about, there's something related to your passion, right?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
outdoors. And they're,
I
that's so
know.
cool. I think
Yeah,
that's just
I've been
really wise.
working hard at it. The funny story was, so I was a Florida kid, went to a little school in Florida, but I ended up interning for the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton Federation.
With the
What?
Jamaican bobsled team.
Well, the funny thing was I knew nothing about bobsled when I got the phone call, so I had to watch Cool Runnings.
The Cool Runnings movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I ended up interning. Like, I had no clothes that were appropriate. I drove my Ford Probe, if you remember that car,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
up to Lake Placid. They paid me $2.14 an hour plus room and board. So I lived in the training center.
Oh, rad.
And there were 5 employees, and my job was to market the bobsled team. We launched a women's bobsled team when I was there, and it was so rad. Like,
is
I
so
bobsledded
cool.
while I was there. I luged while I was there.
Oh, yeah.
How cool.
And it was way before Park City happened. And so
Oh, yeah.
the aerial freestyle used to train there. The big ski jump train,
Oh, yeah,
like
Lake
a lot of
Placid
the
was
stuff that's in
everything.
Park City now is there.
Wow.
So it's kind of full circle. And so I had this amazing experience. And so when I went back to school to finish up school, I was like, oh, I'm totally going to go work in sports marketing. Where do I go? So I was trying to figure out where I wanted to move, what I wanted to do. And I was like, the Olympics are coming to Atlanta in 1996. I graduated in 95. I'll just go to Atlanta and the Olympics will hire me. So I moved to Atlanta. The Olympics did not hire me.
Oh, no.
And so
They're
I,
lost, right?
What a bunch of
and so I
morons.
ended up taking a job. I was a product manager for a baby product company.
Oh.
It's amazing, family-owned company, but worked there for 9 years. And
Oh, wow.
but alongside that, I was running marathons. I was doing triathlon, just super into sports. And I really, 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 really wanted to work for a sporting goods company. And I applied for like every job under the sun and never got it. And then moved to Newell and was working on hair products and fancy pens and
Oh, yeah.
still no sporting goods, and like kept applying for jobs in sporting goods, still never got it. And then I when I was in Paris, they were shutting down the Paris office. And so we were at this inflection point where we could move to Geneva, which was going to be tough for my husband. They were going to send me to North Carolina to work on Rubbermaid, like trash cans and containers. Sexy.
Very exciting.
Or I had my mentor, David Klatt. He knew somebody at Mizuno, which was back in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so he got me in, and that was like kind of how I broke in. And it was awesome because I was an avid runner. And so the sports that I was working on was running, golf, softball, volleyball, baseball.
Oh, what?
And I was an avid runner. And if you live in Atlanta, you have to try to be decent at golf.
Yeah.
And so I got super into
Augusta
trying to be
and-
decent at golf for a little while. And that's when I realized, like, I will never ever work on a product category that I'm not totally
Passionate
in
about.
love with and passionate about. And kind
I
of
think that's great advice
have
for
never
the audience.
have never gone back.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
your husband's a Delta pilot.
He is.
And they probably they have big terminals and their big hubs
Atlanta.
is well not Atlanta but also in Paris, right?
Yep. Well, no. So
Charles
he
de
was
Gaulle.
commuting from Paris to Atlanta when we lived there.
Are you serious?
So he would commute from Paris to Atlanta, spend the night, and then fly the airplane back and forth. But it was awesome.
Wow.
And then when he'd come home, instead of going to the layover hotel, he would just have the van drop him off at the house.
Oh, wow.
So it worked great. So the hubs are Atlanta,
Yeah. Salt
LA,
Lake.
Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And part of how we ended up here actually was his fault because he had been commuting by airplane for many years. So we moved to Northern California and he was having to fly down to LA. And we so he's like, can we please live somewhere where I can drive a car to work instead of an airplane to work? And he, big skier, he's from Colorado. He'd always talked about Park City. I had been once. And I was like, I can't get a job in Park City. It's a ski resort. Like, there's no adult jobs in Park City, Utah. And I was a mountain biker, but
adult jobs.
not really a skier. And then I got a call for like one of the adult jobs in Park City
Yep.
to go be the CMO of Skullcandy. And I remember, this is a crazy, the universe smiles sometimes. I was actually in Park City. It's my second time ever in Park City for a media event for Camelback. And I got a phone call from a recruiter about the Skullcandy job. And they were like, go drive by the building and see what you think.
Yeah.
So I call my husband. I drive by the building, which is this spectacular
It's
glass
really
building with a
cool.
skull
Oh, yeah.
on it.
Yeah, really cool.
And I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool.
This is Cassie Roberts, co-host of Retail War Games. I am thrilled to announce the release of Volcanics Retail University. These certification courses are the result of nearly 2 decades of work involving over 500 brands and countless communications with retail experts. Now, any brand can have their employees learn and certify in the best practices along all retail channels. As a listener of Retail War Games, you can get 50% off using the promo code podcast50. Visit university.volcanicretail.io to learn more.
And I think my husband threatened divorce if I didn't at least interview for the job. And so, so the stars aligned. And
So did you work with Clark Miyazaki?
no, he was before my time. I've met Clark, but so I came in 2017. So the company had, I think, gone public in like 2012, but went back private in 2016, owned by private equity.
Who was the CEO during your time?
Jason Hodell. So
Okay.
he was
That's
CFO.
Brian.
CFO back when Hobie and Jeremy, I think, were there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had the chance to meet Hobie and Jeremy, and awesome pillars of
Oh, for sure.
Utah, but we never got to work together. And then so I joined once it was private and had a great run. We did a lot of great work, and
It was family owned for a long time, right? If I remember
well,
that right.
Rick Alden was the original founder.
Yeah.
So he
Right.
owned it for a long time, went public,
Yeah,
and
10
then
years or so.
we
Got it.
took back private.
So being a CMO for Skullcandy would be pretty fascinating. They did an incredible amount of work. I remember Clark during his time, a lot with the NBA,
Yep.
and he told me some crazy stories and the images that he had in his office and pictures of just, Snoop Dogg or whatever it is. It's
Don't even talk
crazy.
to me about Snoop Dogg. I've been on a mission to somehow meet Snoop Dogg for like a decade, and
Don't even talk to
it
me
still
about
hasn't
Snoop
happened.
Dogg.
And so anybody I meet, I put it out there.
Snoop
Okay.
Dogg.
come
Okay,
on.
tell the audience.
Okay,
Get
I'm
me
going
in-
to remember this.
Get me an intro to Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg.
So
Why Snoop Dogg? Why do you love it?
Well, first of all, I spent my 20s in Atlanta. So 20s Atlanta rap scene was amazing. So I'm
Yeah.
like huge fan of that era of
Okay.
like
Oh, yeah.
Usher,
That makes sense.
T-Pain.
oh
and-
yeah, Usher, oh yeah.
Snoop Dogg. And then I just love how he's transformed. He is like he is
Now he's
in
like
he has a toe in everything, and
he
he's
is
just
he's like a
like
mogul.
he has a certain image, but then he's a savvy
He's a great
businessman.
business mind. Yeah.
And I think he's
Love it.
hilarious.
He's like
and I
teaming
just,
up with Martha Stewart and stuff. You're like, what on earth is
he's
going
going to
on
be
here?
commentate. So there were some funny commentating of the Olympics that, like
Yeah.
back over COVID, I guess. But now I think he's officially signed up to commentate with NBC this year.
That's
So
rad. Oh, that's
I'm
hilarious.
all in
I
on,
can't wait to see that.
all in on Snoop Dogg.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Getting over to KT tape for a little bit. The first time I saw KT tape was probably at a GMDC conference. It was probably like 2012, and I just saw this. Usually, when you go to those shows, it's always the same products. You're like, oh, okay, And KT Tape won like all the awards, and they looked amazing. I was like, oh, that's a really cool brand. I had no idea. Were they from Utah at the time?
Yeah, so
They've always been from Utah.
always been from Utah. So 4 founders, 2 are still on our board. Kind of an interesting story. They, I love the entrepreneurship in Utah, and so they had already built and sold a business, and they were trying to figure out what to do next. And they observed Carrie Lee Walsh in the Olympics.
Yep.
Wearing kinesiology tape. It was not ours. Kinesiology tape was actually invented in the 70s by a Japanese doctor named Dr. Kenzo Kase. And so they approached her about possibly, I think, just distributing to the U.S. And but Dr. Kase had a theory that it was only meant to be applied by clinicians, that it was a medical thing and you could not apply it yourself. And so how they revolutionized it was they thought that they could make it such that you could buy it yourself, apply it yourself.
Yep.
And so they partnered with a gentleman that we still work with here in Utah, Chris Harper, and did a whole series of content showing people and demonstrating how to do it, and sold it into retail and got really great traction.
But she was a very big deal.
Yeah. We've been working with her. We actually, sadly, our chapter ended. We were with her from the beginning of the brand until the end of last year.
But I mean, like every time I even think about an image of hers, she's got KT
That's
tape
right.
on my mind. Right?
And all the
Yes.
cool designs that you've done, and she actually made it really cool, like where you put it on your knees and your shoulders. And
Well, it's
things,
all
so-
functional. There's functional reasons for all that.
But it looks cool.
It looks cool, and but honestly, one of our challenges that I've taken on is we did such a good job of demonstrating the product on top tier athletes, and such a good job working with Carrie Lee Walsh, that people thought of us as a brand that was really only for very elite athletes.
So I had to crawl it back.
Or even like when I started the job, people were like, "Oh, is that the volleyball brand?"
Oh,
And
wow,
I had
really
to say,
niche.
no, it's way more than that. And so the big brand
Yeah,
opportunity
you're like
was,
we're drugstores. We're I mean, we're not
Way
just in
more
the
than
sporting
that.
goods. Oh yeah.
and so it was kind of intimidating to a lot of people when they thought, if I'm not a really serious athlete, I shouldn't be using this product. And the fact is, actually, if you're a total amateur, everyday active person, if you're suffering from
Use
any
it
kind
more.
of pain, you actually probably need it
Use it
more.
more, yeah.
And so that triggered, I joined almost exactly 2 years ago. We did a big reset of the brand to try and figure out how to change that perception.
Yeah.
And so we completely new mission, vision, values, new brand identity, trying to shift people's perception that we are for all of you. And so the packaging is completely updated, branding updated.
I love it.
We launched an app. So the biggest barrier is education on what the heck is kinesiology tape?
Yeah.
Why does it work? How does it work? Does it really work?
Yeah.
And
Kinda
so we
101.
launched a whole series of video communication on all of that. We added QR codes to the packages, so if you're curious, you can jump right to that while you're at retail. And then we launched an app almost a year ago to the date, free consumer app that is amazing, because once we get people over the hurdle of what is it, why does it work, how does it work, the next question is, how do I tape the body part?
Yeah.
And we had a ton of education on YouTube and on the website, but you still kind of had to hunt and peck for your solution. And now if you pull open the app, there's a picture of a body, and you literally point to the part that hurts, point to the knee, point to the elbow, and it immediately
Shows you.
takes you to a very step-by-step video
That's cool.
on how to apply it. And it's
That's cool.
and so really moving the needle on getting people into the category of kinesiology tape. But the other big piece of the strategy is really pressing into non-tape categories or other alternative categories in the tape space that are also associated with pain relief, recovery, and prevention for common
Very
injuries.
interesting.
I'm sure your testimonials are incredible, because I will tell you, having run marathons, half marathons, Spartans, Ragnars, triathlons, the whole thing, right? You can't survive those things. Once you've put this on once, you can't do it without it ever again.
Yes.
Right? And
I-
I
It's
love
like-
it. I'm
kinda
a
like
huge
chapstick.
fan.
Yes. I love hearing you say that, because honestly, what struck me when I started, I went to Chicago Marathon was one of the first events that I went to, and we have this insane following. And when you go to these marathons, you have two types of people. You have folks that have used it and we'll get an hour-long line at a marathon expo for people waiting to be taped by the
Wow.
KT team. And they're like, I need this for my race. The other group of people are people that walk by and they're like, I don't know, I've never tried it.
Rookies.
And we say, let us try it. Let us put it on like
They don't know
both.
what they're missing.
Exactly. Let us put it on both one knee and then go walk around, come back and talk to us. Every single time they come back and the words they use is I feel instant relief.
Wow.
And they get their other knee taped and they buy 3 rolls of tape and they're in. And so sampling for us, we actually do a lot of seeding and sampling, because we know if we can get you taped one time,
Yeah.
It's over. Yeah.
Well, we see
people are in.
we see all the races. I mean, you have booths at all of them.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, you
that-
are.
Yeah,
that's
we're
brilliant.
plugged in a lot of running races. We've started to do more in cycling. So we attend Sea Otter, which is the biggest consumer cycling
yeah.
event in the country. And the other sport that we're really pressing into is pickleball.
Yes, good. That's a
So-
massive
Of
opportunity.
course, that's
We-
the craze, right?
There was an article, I think in USA Today last year, that said insurance premiums were being affected by all the people starting to play pickleball, because you had all these people that were kind of coming out of retirement, so to speak, and jumping into pickleball. And I don't know if you've played. I thought I was in pretty good shape.
They need some help. Yeah.
And the first couple times we played pickleball, totally different body parts.
Yeah.
And
That's
so we
true.
were seeing all these injuries, and so basically the way we decide who we're gonna market to, because anybody can use it,
Sure.
is where's their high sports participation, where do we see repetitive use injuries, where do we see a high rate of kind of injury and pain and muscle soreness. And so the main sports we market to right now: running, cycling, pickleball, team sports. Believe it or not, youth. So many young people wear our product.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of information that says, I don't know how old you guys are, but in my day, we dabbled and you weren't forced to specialize, and now a lot of kids
Oh yeah, that's all
are
they
getting
do. Yep.
pushed to specialize early, and so these young bodies are specializing in one sport early and experiencing a lot more injuries. So youth sports is also big for us. So we, and then of course we dabble in.
Well, there's
Lots
so
of
many applications. Yesterday I was just in our bedroom and I was opening up one of my wife's, or whatever, little dresser where her lamp is, and I open it up and there's some KT tape in there, and I go, "What do you use it for?" She said, "Well, I used them all the time with my pregnancies."
On the belly.
Yeah.
I-
For added support.
It is
Interesting.
used that way. We look at a lot of scientific studies, and
Yeah.
so basically our policy is that we look at what kind of clinical studies have been done. And so for all the body parts that we endorse, we make sure that there's been some sort of clinical work done.
So you can't put your stamp on that one quite yet.
Not quite yet.
Yeah.
But the other one that's doesn't have any kind of clinical use case that your wife might be using it for is for strappy dresses.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've
And
seen
so
that.
we're actually launching a product that's under a little separate sub-brand called BDY Body Tape
Oh, cool.
to help women with strappy dresses.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Good for you. So what
Yeah.
kind of going on the retail side, you're in a lot of different verticals. I mean, you can go into, like we were just talking about, you go into sporting goods shops, you can go into pregnancy shops, but even though you're not supporting it right now, but, bicycle, everything else. But you're also heavily into drug, and I imagine you're probably somewhat into grocery because you're into drug.
More
So
than
what-
somewhat. We are as omni-channel can be.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're everywhere.
We're literally everywhere.
So
I mean,
Pretty
everywhere.
well divided out evenly, or is there one
We have
sector
a really
that's
nice
big?
mix because I've been on a lot of businesses that had a real channel or retail dependency.
I was going to
that
say,
can
you're
get
everywhere.
Scary. We literally, the beauty of this business, because working in sporting goods, you're dependent on a very specific set of channels.
Yeah, you are.
And then anybody that's in that space knows, there's been some challenges post-COVID, where amazing COVID boom and the COVID bust. And so we're lucky because we're a consumable and we really span more health and wellness.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is in a place like Target, for example, we are both in the sporting goods section and in the pharmacy section.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Oh,
we
restaurant
are we are in almost every food
Interesting.
retailer. We are in all the major drug retailers.
What has the higher sell-through at Target? Which section?
So here's how we look at it is I think if you're a consumer and you walk into the store, we look at it as kind of prehab versus rehab.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to perform and have your best performance and be proactive, you might walk into a Dick's Sporting Goods or you might go into the sporting goods
That's right,
section
yeah.
of the store. If you're in pain, you're going to pharmacy.
Yeah.
And so pharmacy does tend to have some higher turns just because there's a wider
More
group
urgency.
of people that are trying to solve pain
Yeah.
that may or may not be athletes versus the person that's being preventative and going into
I
sporting
can see
goods.
that.
But really well balanced. I mean, we're on Amazon, really healthy Amazon business. We also sell through what the sports medicine channel. So that is selling to and through physical therapists, chiropractors, etc. And what am I missing? I mean, and then we do sell direct to consumer, but I feel like this is blasphemous to say this out loud, where it's not our biggest emphasis
Wow.
because we do a nice business there, but because we kind of follow the consumer behavior. And for most people, when they want our product, they really want instant gratification.
Yeah.
And so they literally want to walk into a store and buy it right now or Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And we like to say if you would like the highest price and the slowest shipping, we're your guy. And so it's important to us. We get to interact directly with the consumer. But it's not as much of a race for us because we have so many great wholesale partners, and honestly, they have much bigger traffic coming in
Yeah.
to them than what we can draw. And everybody knows the cost of advertising are just
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. no, for
cranking
sure.
up these days.
So Jessica, where I wanted to go is your shirt. I mean, Olympics
Oh, yeah.
is coming, right? And KT
Yes.
tape obviously matches very well with the Olympics. Yes,
got
there
the-
you go.
Amazing.
What's the plan for sponsorships, and how are you going to roll out for the Olympics?
Yeah, well, we have an amazing legacy. So, as you heard the founding story, it really started with the Olympics.
Yeah.
Sure.
And from that point forward, we have been a partner to the U.S. Olympic Committee and Paralympic Committee this whole time. And so we are the kinesiology tape for Team USA,
That's awesome.
And then in addition to partnering with the U.S. Olympic Committee at the top level, we currently work with several national governing bodies, so U.S. Soccer Federation, USA Track and Field, USA Triathlon, USA Diving, and we have a couple of athletes that have made the cut. So we have Chloe Dygert on cycling, and we have Sarah Hughes, who's one of the top beach volleyball contenders.
Really cool.
And Chloe, by the way, had a nasty bike crash years ago, which if you Google it, it's actually blocked out for sensitive content because it was so gnarly, right above her knee. And so we try to work with people, we will only work with people that genuinely use our product.
Good.
Okay, kids on social media. It's been all over the news. Even the Surgeon General has issued a warning about social media's impact on your young mental health. As parents, we need to connect with our kids, but we don't want to hand over the whole internet to them. So what do? Gab is the solution. They are the leading safe tech company for kids. They have engineered phones and watches without social media or internet browser apps, but with all the good stuff kids want, like safe music, streaming, and messaging. Use code WARGAMES the whole month of July for 50% off a safe Gab device. Gab, safely connected.
So we never just go force somebody to use the product and try and pay them to use it. We go out and spot people that are using it and then say, hey, let's work together. But as for the Olympics, so we shipped a container full of tape to Paris, and that's there for every athlete to use. So even the athletes that we don't directly sponsor, if they have a need for kinesiology tape during the Olympics.
Can you imagine a container load?
A container of tape.
That's amazing.
In
That's
Paris.
amazing.
A lot of tape.
And,
That's amazing.
You can get the other countries sneaking in and trying to steal the
I
tape.
know. So that's there for all the athletes to use.
Just to use, right?
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is because I mean, you'll see. I mean, now that you're paying attention, once you start paying attention, you'll
it's
see
all over the place.
almost everybody.
I'm
sport
gonna
is all
start
over the
watching
place.
even better.
Yeah,
Start
absolutely.
watching.
They better give you like a participatory gold medal
I-
at the end of this. Be like, I want to
Honorary.
I'm going to
Honorary
go.
medal.
Honor. I'm going to go. Yeah, exactly.
Well, our gold
right.
medal is that we actually get to market during the Olympics. So
That's
as you
right.
know, most brands, even if you have athletes that are going there, you kind of have to go on a blackout during the
Yeah,
Olympics, and
that's
we get
right.
to crank up the noise. So we have a really killer integrated marketing program
Really cool.
happening. So between all those sponsorships, we'll have we have a OTT advertising program. We'll have a little bit on NBC, big digital programming, a lot of
that's
content going out. And then we have a tape that we're selling that the consumer can buy if you want to support Team USA. And then we have a signature Sarah Hughes tape that we're also selling. And so we'll
That's
be...
so
What are some of the better? We're talking
So
about different venues to advertise. Talking about TV and some of these other areas. What are some of that are giving you the best return for the product that you have?
So I'll mention on TV, the company was heavily into TV as its legacy, and we actually stopped doing TV to shift entirely to digital and social, with the exception of the Olympics, and it's all digital TV, it's all OTT. But we have found now, if you think about, the consumer behavior, you have a problem, you have knee pain, you have tennis elbow, where do you turn to? You turn to the interwebs, and you start to search to solve your problem. And interestingly, too, we've been looking at generationally, like, again, I'm old, so I'll go to Google and search for my problem. But Gen Z and millennials are actually going into TikTok and searching
That's right.
for how do I solve my problem. And so heavily social. We've really built up, we've doubled our Instagram following in the last, 18 months. We started from 0 on TikTok, and we're up to like 55,000.
There you go.
And it's interesting because on TikTok, if you spend any time on there, I lurk. I don't post, but I lurk for work purposes. And
That's what they all say.
it either has to
Just
I have
kidding.
a pseudonym. So there's it either has to be just silly and entertaining, or it has to be educational.
Sure.
And we're not a silly and entertaining brand, but we really do have great education to offer. And so we just started experimenting and so taping videos and very practical information on how to tape, how to handle certain issues is really what's trending. We did have 2 like funny ASMR videos that shockingly did well that I just still don't understand.
And just go with it, right? We don't know.
I'm too old to understand it. And then we did for the first time sign up a PR agency for some earned media.
Oh.
And we, this is not novel, but one of our kind of opportunities and challenges that we deal with is a lot of times we'll spot really famous people wearing our tape and we kind of can't do anything about it. We can't repost it on social. Like Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler, one wearing the tape. He's having a severe neck issue.
Oh, yeah.
Put on the kinesiology tape and he won, and we're sure it's because of the kinesiology tape. And then like Simone Biles mentioned it's one of her top recovery products. Cool. And I just who else? Like Post Malone was wearing it, but with athletes in particular, we can't do anything with that.
Until they give you permission, is that right?
Yeah, and they're not going to give you permission unless you pay them. And
Post Malone's Utah-based.
I know. Well, Post, if you're listening,
yeah,
let's go.
Let us know if we can hook you
Let's
up.
do this.
Make this official, please.
We will connect you.
Our PR agency, they use this term newsjacking, which I love, which is when we spot it on somebody, especially if, like the Scotty Scheffler situation, Jordan Spieth, very high profile. What we'll do now is they'll quickly hop on the phone, call Golf Magazine and say, hey, can we talk to you about why Scotty Scheffler would be wearing that tape? And we'll work with some of our medical professionals. So we have another local guy, we call Dr. Eli, where we'll say, can we have Dr. Eli talk to you about why Scotty Scheffler or Jordan Spieth, why would they use kinesiology tape in this situation? And it's amazing. So then we get some articles where the article is written and it's editorial and it says, why is Scotty Scheffler wearing this tape? And there's this whole article about KT tape and kinesiology tape, and that's totally legal.
So it's not a sponsorship
totally
per
legal.
se. It's just...
Then it's editorial.
That's awesome.
And so we try and like stalk athletes. I recently stalked Lance Armstrong personally.
How's he doing? We haven't heard much from him for a while.
Well, he has a great podcast called The Move.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
that.
and George Hincapie,
Oh.
they have a brand called We Do, and then they have a podcast called The Move. And I've kind of been paying more attention to him because of the Tour de France.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw Lance wearing KT tape a couple of times. And so I reached out to him on LinkedIn and he answered.
Oh, cool.
I feel like such a nerd. But I was like, hey, can we get you some kinesiology tape? I see you're wearing it repeatedly on the bike. He's doing a lot of weight training.
Yeah.
And he said yes. And so we shipped him some tape, and we can't do anything, from a public relations standpoint, but
it's so cool to know
it's
that
so cool to
the top people are actually using it.
yeah,
though.
like
That's-
really, I mean, that's the beauty of this particular product. I've worked with products where you might have to force it a little more, and sponsorships
You're
are very
pushing it on
much
'em. Let's go.
very much pay to play.
This is very natural.
But we have so much natural stuff
Yeah.
that just happens because people are genuinely using it and relying on it. That is amazing with this brand.
It almost feels like, and I love that, just to kind of, double tap on that theme. So you've mentioned all these organizations, earlier that you're now working with, related to the Olympics and things. Did they come to you, or did you guys have to go hunt them? It feels like they kind of came to you sometimes. in a
Well,
lot of cases.
a lot of them are pretty historical. Like,
Sure.
it's often two-way. Like we see pickleball. It was one where we're like, okay, we gotta get on this.
Let's target that.
And we started
Yeah.
investigating. There's an arms race of pickleball organizations and associations, and we had to go and learn about the space and figure out who would be a great partner. And so we went to them and we ended up signing up with the Association of Pickleball Players, and they do a great job of hosting events that are everything from like total amateurs all the way up to like the top pros. And so sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes we get a knock on the door and we evaluate it.
That is really cool.
That is cool.
I got a random question for you. Favorite Olympian of all time?
Oh gosh.
Or performance that you can remember where you're like, this is unreal. And it just kind of stuck with you.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. You know what? This is going to sound terrible. I'm such a nerd. I've never really been a team sports person. So I definitely lean more action sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm more action sports, and I don't even know if I can answer that question, but I'll answer differently about an athlete that I just like have the craziest respect for. Do you know who Rebecca Rush is?
I don't know.
I don't
What
think I
sport?
do.
They call
either.
her the Queen of Pain. She was an endurance mountain biker, and I don't know if she went. I don't think she went. I don't know if she went to the Olympics or not. But she has the craziest story where she was a. Do you remember in the '90s? You might be too young. When adventure
I
racing was
appreciate
big.
that.
So she was an adventure racer,
Yeah.
and people started dying doing adventure races, and so that's why I didn't even realize this. The whole sport kind of shut down, and Red Bull told her like, "Okay, we love you, we support you. Go pick what you want to do next." So she's like, "All right, I'll do mountain biking," and so she just picked it and like went for it, and she has this incredibly high pain threshold.
Wow.
And she jumped in and just started winning everything. And so I ended up meeting her randomly. Well, I don't even know why I got invited. So I got invited to this camp out in near Ketchum. There was the Boulder White Clouds is a wilderness area that they were shutting down to mountain biking. And so the International Mountain Bicycling Association, People for Bikes, all the industry organizations were rallying together with industry folks to try and stop that from happening.
Yeah.
And I was kind of a newer mountain biker and new to the industry, and somehow I got invited, and I still don't know why. If anybody's listening that can tell me, I would like to know.
The universe is smiling
And,
once again.
Collins.
And Rebecca Rush was there, and I knew nothing about her. And so we go on the ride the first day. It went fine, and she was like, "You guys did great. I'm going to step it up tomorrow." So the next day, we go on this like 36-mile mountain bike ride in Ketchum, which is, if you've ever ridden there, I cried inside. Maybe I might have actually cried a couple times. Super high altitude. I was bleeding. It was horrible. We got to the end. I smelled like a goat. We were camping.
Smelled like a goat.
I go home to my husband. She gives me her book. I read the book on the way home, and I'm like, oh, I'm so lame. I'm like, so not tough. And then I find out I've just ridden with a woman that they call the Queen of Pain. And so I'm like, all right, okay.
Yeah, give yourself
I
that.
feel
That
like-
explains so much.
but I've watched her trajectory, and she, like any athlete, should watch her because she has had so many interesting pivots. And she's aging over time, and she's done a really good job of now she runs these big events, and she runs training, and she has amazing content, and she's written a book. And
I'm going to
she's-
research her. I don't know her.
Yeah, Rebecca Rush.
Rebecca
so anyway,
Rush, okay.
like she pops to mind to me of somebody that just over time has done an incredible job. She was an influencer before there were influencers, and has done a really cool job of
do you guys-
giving back to the sport.
Does
That's
KT
awesome.
Tape focus really heavily on ambassadors more than influencers, or how's it? What's the
So
mix?
they're funny words.
Yeah.
It's funny you phrase it that way because we, the vernacular is funny. Even we internally.
Yeah.
So we have like the Olympians that we're working with, right? That we call them our legacy athletes.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
real athletes, and we know that their job is to focus on their sport.
Yeah.
They're not out TikToking, and we
That's
can't
right.
expect them to do so. Like they need
Yep.
to train and go win medals, and so we kind of have to work with them differently.
Yeah.
Then there's the kind of middle tier that I would say, like where it's shifting to kind of content creator athletes, where they're really awesome at their sport,
Yeah.
but they're not going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And we really like that group of people too, because while our legacy athletes are the pinnacle and demonstrate the efficacy of the product at the
These other
highest
people
levels,
are driving traffic.
the regular folks, there's some amazing people that are amazing at their sports that just aren't going to the Olympics. But they also realize their job, if they're working with a brand, is to create content and do it in a really nice way. And so we're trying to strike that blend. And then we have like an even, opening tier of like, hey, you like us, we like you, you like the product, let us ship you a case of product, and please talk, please give us a shout out.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But we, because we're so sport specific, like influencer is kind of a funny word for us because everybody we're working with is an athlete of some kind.
Yeah, they're all kind of.
How big is your team right now, Jessica?
We're actually pretty lean and mean. So
Good.
as far as the whole company, we're like 63 employees.
Fantastic.
And that includes the warehouse
I'm impressed.
That's
out
incredible.
back. So we're all right here in Utah,
Park City.
American Fork.
Oh, are you American Fork?
American Fork warehouse is right out back, which is amazing.
Wow.
So right before I joined you guys, I was telling you I was literally out packing some boxes
That's
because we had
rad. How many CEOs
a
doing
big
that?
retail shipment.
I love that.
Big-
Lean
a big
and mean.
brand.
Like you're still operating like a startup. That's
Well,
fantastic.
you know what? And I love I did it because we needed the help, but I also I went out back for an hour and jumped in, and it was eye-opening just on the process. And
You see so much, don't
I had a
you?
lot of questions, and it just helps me, ask
But you're an
better
active
questions.
person. Like picking up a box isn't a thing for you, right? A lot of other CEOs like, I'll get some schmuck to come do all this stuff. But
Well, I
but
think
you're out there doing it.
I think it's smart though, because then you are seeing, from the very entry level stages, what's
yeah.
happening, how you
Well,
can fix it.
I learned so much talking to, it's
Yeah.
amazing. So I mean, having the warehouse out back. So most companies I've worked for, the warehouse was in a totally different state. So you had no
That's right.
idea what was going on.
yeah.
If you had an issue or a problem, since you guys work in retail, like if something had to be restickered or repacked or very expensive, difficult, and we literally walk out back. But I'll find out, I'll walk back and see like, what's going on? Why are you guys repacking that thing there? And, or why are all those pallets sitting there? And I learned so much just
That's really
doing
cool.
a lap.
Yeah.
So cool.
Who are the original founders of KT Tape?
It's 4 guys. It's Reed Quinn, Jim Jensen, John McKay, and Ryan Dewey.
Oh yeah,
I know
awesome.
Reed Quinn. He's now with Spark Innovation.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I know Reed.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
we went to
he-
Japan together probably a year and a half ago. He's one
Oh,
of
yeah,
our
he's-
partner companies with
Yeah.
Rev Road.
He's got some deep
and
Japanese connections.
he's very. You just talk to him for 5 minutes, and you're like, wow, your mind is just moving
He is a-
1,000
he's
miles
a
an hour.
smart
Super
dude.
innovative guy.
So cool. Mhm.
I've only got to meet him a couple of times, but you can tell he's definitely the product guy.
Yeah.
And if you want to see a young Reed, don't kill me, Reed. If you can find one of his original pitches. Like it was I think of like a BYU Business Accelerator
cool. That's right.
pitch about KT Tape.
Yeah.
And I think it was him and his sister or his cousin, and it was awesome. And it was the story of how it started, and they did a
That's
great
rad.
job.
That's really, really
So
cool.
cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming on
This has
and
been
chatting
fun.
with us.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jessica.
I know.
Yeah,
really, really
thank
cool.
you.
What's next for KT? Like besides the Olympics, what are you working on? What are you excited about?
Well, we are doing products that are not tape. So
Cool.
one of the things we have sitting here, we're trying to do more other topical pain relief products. So
saw
we have
that.
a pre and post workout magnesium cream that's
So many
amazing.
fun.
I
So
think
many fun things.
one of those is open. One of the blue ones is actually open if you want to
Yeah.
try it out and smell it and try it on. So magnesium has amazing benefits. And
Has that smell of like health or wellness.
wintergreen,
go.
menthol. Yeah, so we're trying to look at the spectrum of the athlete and help them. Like, what do you need to do to prep your body?
Yeah.
What do you need to really kick butt in your sport? And then
That's
if you
so
overdo
cool.
it, how do we help you there? And
Yeah,
so
we got you
We got
covered.
a pre and post, and we're doing a lot of non-tape products and branching into other categories. And
Good for you guys.
yeah,
Unbelievable. Well, thanks again for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you so
Unbelievable
much
for having me.
conversation.
yeah,
It's-
really appreciate it.
Yeah, you have
Good luck.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, just as kind of just closing words, it's been just kind of a fun, kind of following you and your talent level and what you've done for so many of these big brands, Camelback and Skull Candy and everything else, and KT Tape. So we're excited to kind of follow you in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, stay tuned.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Are you a CEO wanting to ensure that your team excels in retail? Enroll them in Volcanic Retail University today. Gain access to comprehensive training and the latest industry insights. Visit university.volcanicretail.io and use code podcast50 for a 50% off discount.